All right, let's do a quick analysis of Bitcoin's price action using ICT concepts. I also have some trend lines because that's how so-called um, retail commonly, analyzes things, and it's just it adds a little bit of something, even if it's not our primary mode of analysis. So we're starting with the monthly. This month, of course, is really just a bit underway. We've got almost 23 days left in the month of July. Today is today is Tuesday, July 9th, 2024. And what we see here is that we have um, definitely general bullishness moving up, with all these BISIs, these bullish fair value gaps moving all the way up. Well, focusing just over here, it seems likely to me, based on my understanding, and I am still a student, I am not, I don't pretend to have mastered this yet. My understanding is that we're very likely to come back down to the 49,000, right, to fill in, rebalance this BISI. And I would not be surprised if we go all the way back down through the 40s, maybe even a little bit, maybe even into here a little bit. Just based on what we see in the past, we see that Bitcoin created multiple BISIs on the way up, and each time we came back down and rebalanced, but we left the bottom one still open, bottom one or two, right? And over here we did the same, and this is all monthly. Let's move to weekly. On the weekly, we see that that last week, for the first time, we have a market structure shift on the weekly candle, where the weekly candle closed below this intermediate term low. Not only that, but we closed below the 50% mark equilibrium of this weekly BISI. So to me, that's a pretty strong indication of bearish price delivery in the future. Now, we might be moving up before moving back down. That's fine. We'll get into that a little bit more shortly. But that's my observation as what is most likely. Let's move on to, and we have a small weekly SIBI over here as well, in the upper quadrant of the four quadrants here. Also, it was the first time, if we're looking at so-called retail, trend lines, it's the first time that we closed below this bullish trend line. And from when I used to study the trend lines, I do recall that very often we'd come below a trend line only to come hit it from the underside before going lower. So even if you look at it that way, there you go. All right, on the daily. So the daily chart, we had a market structure shift from all the way back up over here, or over here if you like, where we broke through these relatively equal lows and continued lower. So we've been in bearish price delivery for quite a while on the daily chart. But again, at the end of last week, we closed below that swing low on over here as well. I think that my sense is that, as I said, I think we're probably going to be heading up in the coming days. I don't know how many days, but bit of time. Maybe rebalancing this SIBI over here, maybe coming all the way back up to this daily inversion for value gap up over there before continuing lower. These lines are the weekly BISI marked off we saw in the previous chart, and these lines are just 20% off the all-time high, 25%, 30% off the all-time high. Let's see, what else do we have here? We have just some observations here. We have this order block here, this bearish order block. So it's quite reasonable for us to think that Bitcoin will come back into this bearish order block here, maybe test the mean threshold of the bearish order block. Oh, that didn't stay on that chart. Let's just make sure it stays visible on the daily. Let's go back to daily. So it's quite likely that we would come back up, wick inside the bearish order block, maybe even a little bit above it, like I said, before continuing lower. Let's see. I think that's just some of the main things that jump out. Suppose you might also argue that we had is this possibly, could we argue this would be a bearish breaker? We have a bearish breaker here, right? It's we took a high and it's a low, but it's not a higher high than that. It is higher than this. So it's not completely clear to me if we would consider it that. These two highs, I think, are almost identical, 71,958 and 71,949. That's a difference of $9, I think it is, on, or $11 on a $71,000+, almost $72,000 asset. I think we can consider that to be essentially the same. So we've set these up. We're going to come back. I have no doubt about it. We're going to come back and, of course, go well beyond the all-time highs. I'm in this for the long term. But it's the short term that I'm looking to study here day by day. Now let's go down to the 4 hour. So on the 4 hour, and you have some marks like I've been buying all the way down. I buy on a regular basis. I've been buying a little bit less often because I usually buy a few times a week, just small amounts, but I've been buying less often because I've been expecting price to come down. But nevertheless, I buy continuously because I'm in this for the long run, and I'm expecting that we're going to keep going. So let's see, I bought over here when we were coming down off of that setup there. I bought over here, I think, because I was a little concerned that we were going to go back up first before going down, and I just figured I'll get it. Bought over here at the bottom over there, and bought at the bottom of this move, and bought at the bottom of this move before we came back up. Also, I wasn't sure if we were going to go all the way back up. Looking at this dealing range here, or at the dealing range at this time, I wasn't sure, if we're going to go back up. I figured I'll just get in there. And now, looking at the 4 hour chart here, let's look at the dealing range. I think, to go back for optimal trade entry would be roughly between 6.2 and 7.9. That would be in this area. We have the 4 hour SIBIs here as well. It overlaps with the daily bearish order block. We would be coming right below the mean threshold of the bearish order block. It just seems to me, we had a swing failure over here where we failed to take out the low over here. Whoops. So obviously I can't know for sure. We have, this would be equilibrium of the dealing range, which includes, and it's called, this is the dealing range in case you're not familiar with the ICT concept, because we took liquidity out over here above this buy side, and then we swept sell side liquidity below here and perhaps, and below here as well. So I think that, I suspect that we are going up. I don't know how far up, but over the next couple of weeks to month or two, I would expect that we're going lower, as I pointed to on the higher time frames. I don't usually go down to the 1 hour when looking at a Bitcoin, because it's just, I'm not day trading it on any level, just buying the dips. But on the 1 hour, we do see that we had a market maker sell model where we came back down to the 1 hour BISI, All right, we respected consequent encroachment on the 1 hour bullish fair value gap, the BISI. We did not close below that midpoint, that halfway mark. And then we went way back up, came back down, and we're going back up. So we're chopping around here. We're consolidating. Again, I suspect this is prior to a move up, and following that move up, which I doubt would be much higher than 63, maybe 64,000 or so. Then I expect we're going to go lower. Now, we are still on the daily chart. We are in bearish price delivery. In order to have, market structure shift, we would have to close above 58,480. That's as that is now. But to see for a real shift, I think we would, have to see, to know for sure that things have really changed. We need to see a close on the daily or even the weekly above 63,820. But again, we just finished the weekly for the first time in a long time. We'll close with one last look at the weekly. Last week, we closed with this market structure shift underneath, right over there, bearish market structure shift. And that's, I think that's likely pretty significant, as well as below the 50% of the weekly BISI. All right, let me know what you think. And